I started a live stream on YouTube.
Yay.
Hooray!
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 Huzzah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we here at Source Material we're putting a show. It's afternoon on Sunday. I don't know what got into us, other than the fact that I just wanted to get something together for Monday on the Rattletion Broadcasting Network. So here we are, Sunday, almost evening, and I put the call out to, of course, my faithful co-host, Ronnie Adams. Ronnie Adams, how you doing this evening?
I am super duper. Apparently, I'm a little out of it, but I will get over that. Good Lord. Super duper, really?
Super duper. Well, I appreciate you joining me. And
absolutely.
We're just, hey, like I said, we're just going to have a good old time today. Real quick episode. We're not going to belabor everything. I wanted to get something together because Monday we don't have a show scheduled. We're recording tomorrow's episode on Google Hangouts for next Monday. So our Guardian Devil episode is actually going to be airing on. We're recording it tomorrow, but airing for the 21st. Okay.
Sounds good.
So that's the plan. So I had to scramble, figure out something that we could do for Monday, the 14th. And I said, Ronnie Adams, let's do a what if. Let's do a one shot, something, anything that we can do. Just read one single issue, blast it out there, and then we're done. Well, Ronnie Adams' pick for this evening. He decided to go the what if route, which is perfectly fine with me. I know I'm a big fan of the what if stories. I believe you are as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you chose what if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben. Now I know this one, from what I think. Let's just take a look here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're joining us on YouTube, by the way, I guess let me go ahead and give a extra big special spoiler warning because we're going to spoil the crap out of this book. But if you're joining us on YouTube, my intentions are we're going to just go through the book. I have the opportunity right here, right now, to share what I have on my screen. And luckily, we can find this online pretty easily. So what you're seeing right now is the cover to that particular issue, where it appears. I mean, just by looking at it, my goodness, already off the bat here, Uncle Ben's getting arrested, and it doesn't look good. No. I'm gonna flip a couple pages here real quick just to see when this came out, and well. Usually it would have it right around in here, but it's probably at the back of the issue. My guess is I want to say 2000 here. I'll go over to the actual internets and we'll look it up. I'm going to say 2011. Let me see. You have any idea off the top of your head? Just give us a guess.
I'm going to say 2005, 6-ish.
Okay. That's probably a good guess. Well, here.
The reason I say that is because I read another what if right after this one, and that's about when it was put out.
Nice. Published. Released December 29th, 2004. Published February 2005. So you're right on the money.
Sweet.
Yeah. Our creators here of this particular book, according to my notes, written by Ed Brubaker, art by Andrea DeVito. I've heard of Ed Brubaker. I don't know specifically anything that he's done off the top of my head. Let's take a look. Ed Brubaker, just to see. Well, he's got quite a resume.
Yeah, I know. I know Ed Brubaker. I mean, I don't know him, but you know what I mean.
Good friends. High five.
We're friends.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Notable works: Captain America, Catwoman, Criminal, Daredevil, Gotham Central, Incognito, Sleeper, Uncanny X-Men. So he's had his hand on quite a few comics.
Yeah.
Won an Eisner Award on 6 separate occasions. So he's got some chops on him. He's got some chops to write a decent story if he wants to. Well, let me ask you, Ronnie, what brought you to decide this one? I mean, was this just out of the blue? Did you know this one off the top of your head or what?
No, well, kind of, not really, but I had heard about it, and I was like, why not? Because it's an interesting question. It really is. It's what would have happened if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
So
very, very. I mean, we know with Spider-Man, anybody that's out there that doesn't know much about Spider-Man, we can do our best here real quick to kind of give you the rundown of why this event is very important in Spider-Man / Peter Parker's life. I'll tell you what, if you have, how many times has his origin been told? And this
about 3,000.
Yeah, this particular part of the origin is absolutely crucial to the development of Peter Parker and Spider-Man as a person and as a superhero. Originally in the 616 timeline, Spider-Man, after finding out his new powers, I think if you watch the movie, he goes and wrestles. He's a wrestler. And I believe that's what happens in the comic as well. It's been a while since I read the original, but he goes, performs these feats for money. This is right after he gets his powers. And because he was treated wrongly by the guy that was the shady circus. Wow, what's the term I'm looking for? This guy's a shady dealer, I guess you would say. The guy that put all this crap together wasn't going to pay Spider-Man the money that was agreed, and that made Peter Parker a little upset. Well, later that evening, a guy busts in and robs this promoter. That's the word I'm looking for. Robs this promoter, takes his money, takes off running, and Peter Parker has every opportunity to stop this burglar from this criminal from escaping, and he does nothing in order to get back at the shady promoter. So he lets this guy escape. Well, in the course of events that follows after that, this same criminal that night runs into Uncle Ben. And I don't know specifically how it goes down, but Uncle Ben gets shot. This criminal shoots Uncle Ben and kills him. Peter Parker finds out about this, and there we go. So originally, Uncle Ben dies because Peter Parker decides not to take action, even though he could have. Ergo, Ergo, the famous saying. What is the famous saying, Ronnie Adams?
Ergo?
Not ergo.
Oh, with great power comes great responsibility.
There you go. There you go. There you go, ergo. Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, these are I don't know if this was the dying words of Uncle Ben or this was something that Uncle Ben has been trying to continually teach Peter Parker, but that was the theme. That was the thing that hinged Peter Parker from, it was something that kind of wrote his life from there on out. He had all this power. He needs to use it responsibly. So, yeah, in the 616, I'm curious as to what that one is.
619.
619. Rey Mysterio is Spider-Man. In the 616 universe, here you go. Uncle Ben's now passed away. He goes home. He has to tell Aunt May the news. And from there on out, he lives with Aunt May. And the course of Spider-Man continues. Now, in this book, we posit that Aunt May is killed instead. So we're going to break it down here. I made my notes. Ronnie, you have anything you'd like to discuss or bring up before we get into it?
No, I mean, like I said, it's an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
I was drawn to it.
I real quick on these online comics, and I'm really thinking about becoming a member of this site, by the way.
Right.
Because at the end of it, you can read people's comments about the issue, which is really cool. And one guy said, I got an idea. What if the burglar had died? I think is what he said. Uh-oh. My wife just asked me where the chocolate bars that were on the grocery list. Guess what?
Oh, no, you forgot them.
I didn't buy any. I won't be in trouble. But anyway,
you're a dead man.
I am, dude. I think he asked, like, what if the burglar had not gotten away or something like that. But anyway, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and fumble over my words.
What if the burglar was Richard Parker?
No, hold on.
Okay, sorry.
I'm flying there right now, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me, because I was actually going to save the comments for the end. Here's another Spider-Man. What if? What if Spider-Man didn't let the burglar escape? So that's a good question. And the thing is that they actually did that one. So that apparently is out there. So he says he's not going to spoil it. We may have to revisit this one at some point.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But anyway, right now we're focused on what if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben. All right, so I'm going to hop into it here and just, Ronnie Adams, you know the deal.
Yeah.
Jump in, my man. If you got any questions, whatever, we're ready to rock and roll. So at the beginning of this issue, we get our treatment to, hey, guess what? Here is the origin of Spider-Man. Of course, we got to cover that because just in case somebody just picked this up and had no idea who Spider-Man is.
If you've been living under a rock for your entire life.
Only, I think, the most popular Marvel property, in my opinion. But yes, so we get a treatment to the origin, and they talk about the original 616 events. Now, in this case, like I said, the burglar gets away and ends up shooting Aunt May. I think he breaks into the house. Mm-hmm. The neighbors hear shots.
Ben went to buy a gallon of milk.
Yeah, Ben's out of the house, comes back, and of course there's a squad and the police cars are surrounding the house. Aunt May's dead. Aunt May is dead. Peter Parker comes home, and I mean he's visibly upset, so upset enough that he actually, in the process of talking to Uncle Ben about what happened, he reveals that he is Spider-Man that very night. He says, look, and I'm Spider-Man, and I'm going to go catch this guy. And sure enough, just like in what we've seen in the universe that we're used to, the burglars hid out. He hides out in some type of factory that's like right down the road. Peter Parker takes off towards the factory. Uncle Ben, by the way, sees this rage, this unchecked rage that Peter Parker has, and he's trying to talk some sense into him. He can't do it. When Peter Parker leaves, Uncle Ben's chasing him. He's like, he knows something bad's going to happen. So as they get to the factory, Peter Parker's confronting the burglar, and everything kind of happens the way that we've seen. The burglar's kind of hidden in the shadows at first. Peter Parker socks him a good one, and then the light shines on his face, and we see Pete realize that this is the same guy that he let go earlier from the wrestling match. He's visibly upset. I think that could be the least we could say about Peter Parker at that point in time. The burglar backs up, falls out the window. We've been there. We've seen that. However, this time, Uncle Ben shows up just as the burglar falls out. And as the police are down there, they shine the lights up and they see Uncle Ben's face. And he then takes the rap for the murder of this burglar, and tells Peter Parker to get out of there. He tells his nephew, leave. I'll take care of this. So Peter Parker leaves. Uncle Ben is taken away in handcuffs, and he promptly goes to jail. Now, here's the thing. This is what I thought was interesting. This is a good point, in my opinion. Peter Parker, because he has nobody now. Aunt May is dead. Excuse me. Aunt May's dead, and Uncle Ben is now in jail. There's nobody to take care of him. So the only other option right now is since Peter doesn't have parents, I think his parents are assumed dead at this point. The only other option is for Peter to go into the system. He goes in as an orphan, and promptly, they put him into an orphanage. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty interesting. How about you, Ronnie? Did you have any qualms with that? I know you kind of, after reading this, it felt like you had some issues, or maybe it just didn't hit home for you, but what'd you think?
Well, the thing about it was like, why is his rage so unchecked when May dies? Mm-hmm. He was angry and went to look for the burglar, when Ben died, but yeah. Why would he do anything different? Why would he flip the table? Why would he rip his shirt open and the whole nine? So I don't understand why when May died and not when Ben died. So that was kind of like one of those things. Was like, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. As far as him being put into the system, that's unfortunately, I don't know how quick it would happen or anything like that, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. He's a ward of the state. So as they put it in the book, but it's they search for family members. Obviously, he doesn't have any family members. His parents died. The only people to take him in were Ben and May. Yeah, but I don't have a problem with it. It's just I've got questions of why he would be so angry. It should have kind of gone down the same no matter what. So that's why it was interesting to see how they were going to change the story.
Yeah, I think the whole orphanage thing. When we hear, I don't hear too many good stories of kids that come out of orphanages. There's. I just say more good than bad. It's not like I know a lot of orphans,
right.
And it's a sad situation. It's a sad place to go because all the rest of the people that you encounter and you become friends with are in a very similar tough, tough life. So,
well, he was placed into the system. He had to live in a home. I've known people that have gone through group homes and things like that, and mm-hmm. You got to be, in some of them you got to be tough, or you got to, or not survive, so they get that tough, that almost bitter, air, about them when they're in these homes. You don't let anybody step on you, don't let anybody, work you over or anything like that, because unfortunately there are people that will do that.
Yeah.
So. That part I can understand, him being a bitter young man as far as that goes. He's lost the only two people that ever cared about him, since his parents died. They were raising him as their own. So obviously he's going to get ticked off that the one guy that he considers a father is sitting in a jail cell, and the one woman that he considered a mother is dead, and he's got these great powers, but he's only a kid and he can't do anything about it. So that's got to it's going to weigh on somebody's, on somebody's soul, on the way they think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm down here at the bottom of this page, and I didn't have this in my notes, but it was interesting to see when he went and visited Uncle Ben. They were talking about how, now not only did Peter Parker, not only is he, living this rough life, but he also has to live with the burden that his uncle's in jail, and he is responsible for that partially.
Possibly because of him.
Yeah. And so he has to live with that even. So things aren't going so well for Peter Parker here. And they talk about how Spider-Man disappears from the city. Apparently, I didn't follow this all the way. I didn't see that Peter Parker or Spider-Man was out doing much crime fighting, because it seemed to me like, okay, hey, he's put into a home, and there we go. That would be happening pretty immediately after he donned the costume. I don't know if they're just saying, how they're saying that Spider-Man vanishes, unless they're talking about everything that happened prior to Aunt May getting killed, which couldn't have been too many. But still, I mean, you got a guy swinging around on a web that's going to make the news, and all of a sudden he's gone. So even if he did only 1 or 2 or 3 little adventures throughout the city of Manhattan, they're going to pay attention. But regardless, one of the other things that happens that's important in the 616 universe is J. Jonah Jameson's son, who is an astronaut who gets into some trouble in space, and the only person that was able to rescue him was Spider-Man.
Right.
Well, because of the situation that Peter Parker is in right now, that sequence of events doesn't happen, and J. Jonah Jameson's son ends up meeting his fate on that space shuttle
instead of becoming Man-Wolf.
Yeah. I don't know which one. I don't know which one's worse.
I know. I was going to say 6 and 1, half a dozen of the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, you can deal. But yeah, so J. Jonah Jameson
joke like that because they're comic book characters.
That's right. Not too many people I know turn into werewolves at night anyway. So that's I apologize if I offend any werewolves out there.
If anyone identifies as a werewolf, we apologize.
We do. But Jake,
you actually identify as a werewolf.
So JJJ is tore up. I mean, his son has now died, and I think the only thing that drives him on is his one-man war against Spider-Man, just like we usually see here in the 616. However, that is all he has here. And even though Spider-Man is rarely seen, Peter Parker doesn't don the costume, if any or at all, while he's in this home. JJJ just still goes ballistic and runs Spider-Man's name through the mud, through the papers, just like we usually had seen. Now, this gets under Peter Parker's skin to where he goes over to the Daily Bugle and we're going to say assault. He assaults him. He picks him up, punches him. At one point, I actually thought he threw him through the window, which
I did too. I was like, oh, look at that.
He punches him, and then the next thing you see is J. Jonah Jameson flying through the window, and my assumption is Spider-Man's reaching to catch him. I thought he was throwing him, but anyway, he catches him. He's got him by the shirt collar, holds him over I don't know how many stories they are up, but it's pretty darn high, and he threatens to listen. Leave me alone. I have there's no reason for you to treat me the way that you do. And JJJ's like, okay, I think he learns his lesson. He's not going to do it anymore, and goes back to grieving his son, but leaves Spider-Man alone for right now. Now, that night that he does this, he has to leave the orphanage. Well, that doesn't go unnoticed. And because of that, they say, okay, you, sir, have violated whatever rule. The only place for you right now is juvie. You're going to a juvenile detention center. And man, I mean, if it ain't getting worse for Peter Parker here, I don't know what does. And when he gets in there, he runs into some old acquaintances, ones that were never usually too nice to him in the first place, and that's one Flash Thompson and one Harry Osborn.
Right.
And of course, we get the bullying that we used to see in school. So much so that Peter Parker's like, I'm done. There's no reason for me to stay here anymore. And he leaves. He runs away. He uses power throughout this time. It's not very different. He's homeless, though. It's kind of messed up because he's
to
finding,
say the least.
he's finding any place he can sleep. He will, but nobody's there to care for him. He still, however, does don the costume every once in a while, and just for S's and G's, goes and fights the villains that he would normally fight in the 616. Doc Ock. They show him fighting Doc Ock. They show him fighting the Vulture. They show him fighting the Lizard. And then he encounters the Green Goblin. And I believe this is the first encounter, I think they said. It's when he first fights the Green Goblin. Green Goblin is throwing these pumpkin bombs, killing civilians, no care whatsoever. And this enrages Peter Parker to where he goes and he attacks the Green Goblin, brings him down, brings a building down on top of him, and nearly kills him. He believes he actually did kill him. And he, again, crosses that threshold and realizes how far he's went. And he steps back and he says, oh, my gosh, what am I doing? And Green Goblin is clearly incapacitated. He believes he's dead. Now this eats at him. Mm-hmm. The fact that he almost crossed that line. Luckily, he sees in the paper that he was not killed. Green Goblin was not killed, but they do find out and uncover his identity. And this eats at him so much that he feels that the only person that can possibly help him or possibly understand where he's at, and that's Uncle Ben.
Well, he gets ticked off because this guy, he's a mass murderer and a psycho. He's killed people. He's trying to kill him, and what do? They put him in a psych ward instead of jail.
Yeah.
So he thinks that he deserves jail. So if why is Uncle Ben in there? If in jail, if Norman Osborn is just going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So he goes to break out Uncle Ben.
His rage and I don't want to say misunderstanding of the world, but his conception of the world seems pretty legit to me for a 15 or 16-year-old.
Absolutely.
They mentioned that, this isn't adult Peter Parker we're talking about here. This is the kid who, he's not too far from finishing high school, but he's a young kid. He's got to try and deal with the fact, number one, this guy who potentially killed somebody is getting off pretty easy. And number two, the one guy that I care about, the one guy that I, that cares about me is in jail because of something I've done. So his mindset can't be that great. And of course, as a young kid, you're going to make a rash decision, and
right.
Breaking somebody out of prison, I'm going to categorize that as a rash decision.
A little bit.
It's not like this is some kind of top secret to do. I mean, Spider-Man climbs up the building and rips the bars apart at the jail cell.
Right. He doesn't even, he's like, all right, let's get rid of these and we're good to go.
Which, by the way, just looking at the jail, that's an old-timey jail right there. When you don't have any windows, you just got bars on the outside. It might be
horses, hitched to the post out front.
But yeah, he breaks in there with his whole plan hey, I'm breaking you out, man. And Uncle Ben's like, what are you thinking, kid? What are you thinking? And so after a little bit, Uncle Ben finally talks some sense into him. And we get I'm looking at the quote right here, the famous Uncle Ben quote. You've been given great power, Peter, and because of that, you've got a great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That clicks something. It flips a switch in Peter, and he takes his mask off, and he confesses to Uncle Ben what happened that night, about how he did not stop that robber. I call him a burglar. Are they the same thing? As a burglar,
pretty much.
Like, okay,
I mean,
a burglar tries to do it without getting caught, or not without getting caught.
The robber robs, the burglar burgles.
I might have to go upstairs and burgle here in just a few minutes.
Oh, you want to know what you mean by that?
But no, okay, so he confesses to Uncle Ben. He says, look, you know, I could have stopped him. Aunt May would be alive if it wasn't for me. It's my fault. And of course, Uncle Ben tells him, no, man, what are you thinking, man? It's not your fault. You didn't pull the trigger. You're not, even though you had the opportunity, it's not your fault. You know, I don't know how many years of comic books passed in the original 616 with Spider-Man, where if anybody ever told him that, you know what I mean? Like, he harbored that guilt for years. That's what drove him for years in the comics. He never had somebody come up to him because he never could tell Aunt May she had a heart condition. You know, I remember that was like one of the things is like, if he told Aunt May she'd have a heart attack. So he couldn't tell her. He couldn't tell anybody about his secret identity because you know, that could potentially endanger the people that he loved. So here it's kind of interesting to see in this book, he has the opportunity to confess what happened to Uncle Ben and actually have Uncle Ben look him in the face and tell him, hey man, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. So if there's anything out of this book that I really enjoy, I think it may be that aspect. That part right there. So, okay. So he confesses to Uncle Ben what happens. He tells Pete it's okay. It's not his fault. And he also says, hey, look, Miss Watson across the street, she has agreed to take you in. And if you're interested, you know, if you want to be a contributing member to society, you'll live under her roof. So this happens. Peter becomes more of a normal kid. Every once in a while, he dons the costume, they say. He doesn't fully go out in Spider-Man every night. It's just something that he does every once in a while when there is a fairly big threat that requires his attention. And soon, Uncle Ben's released on parole for good behavior. And they decide as a team, they are going to put the greater responsibility to the test that they have, and they go out as Uncle Ben serves kind of like as Oracle here. That's probably my best analog. The guy who's kind of behind the scenes, calling the shots.
He's a mix of Oracle and Alfred.
There you go. And that's kind of where we leave it. Peter Parker and Uncle Ben are a crime-fighting team. Peter Parker's a happier person, it seems like, at that point.
He's like the Spider-Man we all know and love.
Yeah. And that's the end. I mean, that's pretty much the end. Now, Ronnie, you said you didn't like, you were like, this kind of sucked. I mean, number one, I'll give you my criticism, and then I'm going to let you tear into it if you got some things, okay? All right. What am I used to when I'm reading What Ifs? I'm used to the Watcher telling us a story like, hey, so and so we're looking at
what if this happened?
Exactly. But instead, we get comic book men sitting in a comic shop discussing just between two dudes, which, okay, that's fine. I guess this is the later What Ifs. But we get the comic book guys, and they're, well, let me tell you a story. This is what I think would happen. Well, technically, and then we had...
Listen, Spider-Man will never do this.
I mean, these guys are. You look at them. One of them's got long hair. He's supposedly pretty cool. And the other guy's doing whatever. But whatever. That was kind of the only thing that kind of put me off. Was the fact that we just had these two guys telling a conversation and we were exploring it that way. Now I'm sure that's Marvel's intent was to get away from the whole Watcher and tell you what if stories by using. I have no idea. It's just a different way of telling a what if story is my guess, without always having to lean on the Watcher. But it's not like the Watcher doesn't make an appearance in some form, because our one guy telling the story has a Watcher shirt on. So
right.
And yeah, last sentence. Yeah, or no, I'll read this last panel. So what? He's less of a wisecracking whiner then? And the other guy's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, who could say? In the long run, what am I? The friggin' Watcher? Wearing the Watcher shirt. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So go ahead, Ronnie. What you felt it sucked? I mean,
well, that was the only part I didn't like.
Those guys?
Yeah, those guys. Well, I was a little confused at certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, not confused, but I was a little put off by like his rage. At one and not the other. But those comic book guys, Kevin Smith and his buddy.
Well, that's Jay without the toboggan or something. I have no idea.
Silent Bob there. They
not so Silent Bob.
Not so Silent Bob. They. I mean, if you ever watch Chasing Amy, he can spin a yarn. But it's it kind of took me out of it. I'm not used to that, and I don't really like that. I like the Watcher, man. That's what the whole thing was, The Watcher he's supposed to tell you, I watch all of these events unfold, and they've even said in the books and everything, once he shows up, it's about to go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, until Nick Fury shot him in the head, he was pretty important in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool, and I miss the Watcher now that he's gone. And it would have been fun if I'd picked out one that the Watcher actually shows up in. So
yeah, another thing I think, I don't know if this got to you or it got to me a little bit. It just wasn't as extreme as
I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, does he go off the deep end and become a villain, or it's not really. It's
the thing
just
about it
tiny little variances. Go ahead.
It was supposed to be. He was supposed to be like this darker Spider-Man, and that's what it said. But we never saw that. Really.
Yeah, it's more dealing with the teenage angst that he was suffering from, and it's not like he let loose a lot. He just every once in a while he'd fight a villain, and that'd be about it. The only time he really let loose is when he got sick and tired of JJJ, when gave him a hard time, and then he thought maybe he killed the Green Goblin. So, I know as a kid, we've probably all been there where our rage has maybe become a little unchecked. But in this iteration of the Marvel Universe, he didn't lose his temper completely, especially with the fact that he had these awesome powers to which he could have really wrecked some stuff. He really could have if he wanted to, but he didn't.
Right.
He was just a kid going through the motions and trying to deal with the situation that he was in, and it felt more realistic. I wanted to see darker too, buddy. I'll tell you that right now. I wanted to, but yeah, I mean, I could see where you're coming from there. So, all right, well, we've reached the end. I'll go ahead and we'll do some comments here just to kind of look at a couple of these. Spidey called Jonah a little Hitler. This is now officially the greatest Spider-Man anything ever. That's a spirit burst there. So we already talked about the other Spider-Man What If. This guy says, wait, I just realized the situation for May and Ben is just like with Barry Allen's parents, which in this book it sort of is.
It really is.
The time travel and the killing of the mom, but I mean, yeah, Spidey's father figure is in jail while his mother figure's dead. So interesting. This what if sucks. I have read better what ifs. I have read better what ifs than this bull crap. He didn't like it.
Well, I mean, it was a good concept. A good, it could, execution was not as good as the actual concept.
Mm-hmm. Ignition 7 says this was great. I'm glad Peter wins it in the end. Which, yeah, I can agree with that. It's kind of nice to see a story where Peter Parker lives happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have no idea what that's about. The movie is Stab Lee's favorite. You really going to bat? I think he meant Stan. I think
he meant Stan, and I don't think he knows what he's talking about.
Stab Lee.
So he loses.
So basically, Spidey is just the same. Spidey is the same, just angrier. I don't know about all that.
I mean, he was darker when he first got the symbiote.
Yeah.
So I get it. This is a one shot. It seemed rather short too for a book, in my opinion. But I read an even felt like even shorter one. What if Jesse? I read all of the Alias line.
Yeah.
Alias. And then the new one was Alias Jessica Jones, or Jessica Jones Alias, or whatever it was called. But Alias was rough.
Was it?
For Marvel Comics, there was a lot of F-bombs in that book.
Oh, well, that was the Max series, right?
Yeah, the Max series. So, I mean, the same thing happened in the Punisher books. So it was it was a little, it was hard to take in, just how incredibly awful the Purple Man was, and how vile he was. And it was, and to think about it, they got a lot of things. I just watched the Jessica Jones series. Finally, just really got to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't like it at first, but then I sat down. I was like, no, I've watched Iron Fist. I've watched Luke Cage. I've watched Daredevil. I got to watch this. To appreciate the Defenders. It's coming out this month.
Yeah. Right around the corner.
Yeah. And so I watched, I'd watched it before, but I sat down and I really gave it my full attention. And as storylines go, really good. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's just not my favorite out of the Marvel series because that's about as rated R as Marvel can get. You know what I mean? I was really shocked, but it was really good. So with that I read the Alias comic books, and they stuck pretty close to it.
This is Bendis was the writer of Alias, right? I think so.
Right.
Okay.
And then so Bendis wrote another one. A what if, and it was what if Jessica Jones had taken the job at S.H.I.E.L.D. She was offered a job at S.H.I.E.L.D. Being an Avengers liaison, and so she would be working for Nick Fury but fighting with the Avengers and not have to wear her jewel costume anymore. So it was a rather short one. She went through the crap with Kilgrave and everything, and then she ended up falling in love with Captain America, and they ended up getting married at the end of the book, and that was it. It was a very feel-good book, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it was like it's almost like these people are, they've gone through enough crap. Let's do a what if and make them live happily ever after.
True.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of sucked in this one that they were like, forget May. He's got Ben, he's good now. So there's not, he grieves his head off over Uncle Ben constantly. But once Ben's out of prison, he's like, nah, we're good. Let's fight some crime. And they're like, we're doing this for Aunt what's her head? Aunt May. Yeah, that's her name. And, I mean, I know her name. I don't think they know her name anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. My reasoning or argument for that is that he's got somebody to talk to now. He doesn't have any secrets with Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben knows he's Spider-Man. Uncle knows what he did.
Yeah.
Uncle Ben knows what he did. He had the opportunity. Not only did he have the opportunity to confess, he had the opportunity to grieve and clear the air. So I think it's a fairly good point in the storytelling that, yeah, things are probably going to be a little bit different since now he doesn't have all that weight that he's got to carry. So,
right.
But I see where you're coming from as well, because it just seemed like, well, okay, hey, happily ever after, crime fighting goes on, and Uncle Ben's...
He's living with his girlfriend. Uncle Ben gets out, and he's like, hey, we're going to go be, Green Hornet Cato for a while, drive around in a car. And so, they don't really, there's no remembrance of May. The reason why Spider-Man is Spider-Man because Uncle Ben told him with great power comes great responsibility. And then Uncle Ben told him that in this as well.
Yeah.
So, there's no, they grieve for May, but there's not much else going on for May right there.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, well, I think that brings this that brings the coverage.
Sure.
That brings the coverage of what if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben to a close. Let's go ahead, sir. I'm going to bring this thing down here. Hit stop. There we go. Okay, well, let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs, and we'll just do some plugs here and get on out of here and enjoy the rest of our Sunday evening. What do you have, sir? What's been going on in the world of Screaming Boy podcast? Ronnie Adams.
We have, what is today? Sunday. Friday, we did a show about Voltron versus the Power Rangers. And it was a pretty good, pretty fun show.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, 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 buzz. Oh, Lord.
I can tell you that Mark Radlich did listen to our episode, and he said that I asked him about the audio. I said, "What did it take you out?" Because I was afraid to listen to it. I hate it when I sit there and listen to myself screw something up like that. But anyway, but he said he enjoyed the show. He learned quite a few things, specifically about the 70 iterations of Power Rangers that came before. So it was a good show, man. Go ahead and continue. Sorry.
Good. No, you're fine. So we've got that. We did another some kind of military something or other show, and that's the actual name of the show. So we're live on the Red Religion Broadcasting Network on Friday nights, and it's been a lot of fun. Like I've said many times before, we should be returning to a regularly scheduled recording schedule. What?
You said schedule twice.
I did. I suck at life. But so we should be returning to that soon. So we'll be back on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Radio Religion Broadcasting Network. Last thing we did that was uploaded to iTunes was like in May.
Wow.
So it's not too far behind. But it's but we've been keeping up with the live shows, so we can go back and you can find us on the Radio Religion Broadcasting Network. So you on social media, you can find us on Facebook. Just search Screaming Boy Podcast. Twitter is at Screaming Boy PR, and then Instagram is Stream Boy Podcast, and I think that's pretty much it right now. So we have fun. We have fun.
Good.
You and Adam and you and Adam, and then we had Patrick Mullen on there Friday night. He's always a blast to have on there. And then Justin was on there for our military show. Mm-hmm. So the Invisible One himself. So right. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow me at Stiznarchy on Twitter. The show's Twitter at SourceMacCast. If you want to check that out. We have a Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page. You can check that out as well. Stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. Like I mentioned earlier, this Monday when this show drops on the 14th, you can listen to it at that point in time on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. On the 21st, we are going to be dropping our episode for Daredevil, Guardian Devil. The aforementioned Kevin Smith writes an 8-part tale that, wow, it is a wordy tome, but it's a good one. I will.
It's Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I will go ahead and say that if you're interested in finding out what happens in Guardian Devil, make sure to tune in. We're going to do our best to discuss it. We may give Kevin Smith a hard time. I know Mark Radulich is already preparing.
Yeah.
Give him a hard time about the...
Listen.
Oh, man, I started reading that last night at 10:30 or 10:45.
Well, there's your problem.
I finished at 1. Now, mind you, I was making notes, going through and doing all that, but I remember, turning the first page, and I'm like, surely this is not going to be like this, the whole 8 parts that I have to read. But it was. However, the story that was told was decent. So I'm not going to go much more further into that. Go ahead.
He can tell a good story. He just does it with a lot of words.
Yes. I think this might be the first thing I've read. I at one time was going to read. He had a run on Green Arrow. I can't remember what it was called. I know it was like the first 12 issues, I think, of Green Arrow. And I do know that we have I'm fairly certain Jordan Lowe of the Kapow podcast is a Kevin Smith fan as well. And originally I, at some point, was going to plan to cover those with him. So I'm curious if the writing style is the same, where it's
probably
really, really long and really wordy. But again, ladies and gentlemen, check that out. It's going to drop on the 21st. We're going to record that tomorrow. If you want to tune in live, you can, because it'll be on the Source Material podcast page on YouTube. So check that out. Now, I had the distinct opportunity last night to interview the Patriarch himself with the Cancer Q&A Part 2. That's right. Mark Radulich finished up his last round of chemo near the end of July. So we got an update on what's going on in his fight against cancer last night. And it was interesting to hear him tell the tale of what he's had to endure these past 4 months since we last spoke in I think we spoke in, I want to say April. It was sometime. It was April. Yeah, I think it was April. I think
so, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so that's going to be edited and up on the network here at some point soon. You can go to represent.com/fight and find a nice snazzy t-shirt. And what this thing will do, if you want a shirt that can support the Patriarch in his fight with cancer, lymphoma, then check that out. And also, do not hesitate to buy, because it throws some dollars to Mark Radulich to help him with that fight. So you get a shirt, and you get the comfort of knowing you helped this man out in his financial battle against cancer. So check that out, ladies and gentlemen. That episode should be dropping here pretty soon. I think that's it, man. Ronnie Adams.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining me this evening.
Always.
I will be speaking to you tomorrow. I know that for a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody that's...
God help us all.
That's tuned in live. I want to thank you. If you're catching this later on the Rattlechen Broadcasting Network, on Stitcher, on iTunes, our home on Blog Talk Radio, tremendous. Thank you very much. Don't hesitate to give either me or Ronnie Adams some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want.
Absolutely.
Is there something you want us to cover? We'll do it. We ain't scared of it. We'll read something, as long as it ain't like double Kevin Smith length or something like that. I might have to set out a few Mondays.
We'll veto that.
We'll come up with something. But anyway, you let us know, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much again. I'm hitting the stop broadcast button. My name's Jesse Starcher. That's Ronnie Adams. This is Source Material. Bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one.